to get very quickly. Basically, this is for an American audience. They're not going to know who you are. So who are you, and could you tell me a little bit about what you do?
My name is Ururoa Flavell. I'm currently Member of Parliament for an electorate here, one of the 7 Māori seats that are designated for Māori people in New Zealand. We are a party of 4 at present. We came at the last election on the back of a big, huge protest movement prior to the last election, and have been in Parliament for 2 years. My background is in education. I'm a teacher, been a principal of a school, chief executive of an indigenous university here in New Zealand, and I'm spokesperson for education and science and all sorts of other things, because we're only a small party to try and cover all the bases, and I'm also in charge of keeping the discipline within our party. So that's me.
So getting very quickly into the hard questions. It seems to me that the Maori Party is very, very different from every other party in Parliament, because every other party ultimately believes in an ideology that that they feel would be the best for all New Zealanders. I mean, the Maori Party very specifically is more like an interest group looking out for the interests of the indigenous people of New Zealand.
I think it's a little bit more than that. I mean, we certainly believe that, well, our party is based on a philosophical view that is, which at its core has Māori philosophies, values at its heart, and we try to express those by way of how we go about our business, and also how we view taking this country forward. We believe that we can make a contribution like anybody else, that we believe that every piece of legislation that comes into the Parliament of New Zealand is a Māori issue, because we are tangata whenua, we're people of the land, we're the indigenous people of this land, and because Māoridom has generally in the past, in fact always in the past, been represented by the major parties, then the arrival of the Māori Party in this Parliament has meant that we hope created a legacy that we will be the strong, independent Māori voice in Parliament of this land with influence. So that strong, independent Māori voice in Parliament with influence, which is about, I suppose, saying that we want to make a positive contribution, but our contribution to the development of the nation is through the eyes of Indigenous people.
As a minor party in Parliament, how much of a contribution can you make, and how much of an effect have you had so far?
I think most commentators, media and otherwise, have said that we've made a major contribution, because up until this point in time, as I say, there are Māori people in the other parties, but when push comes to shove, basically they have to follow the lead given by their political masters. They are put there by that party machinery, and they will follow the line. If they don't, they're out. Whereas our view is that we're able to express our views clearly, openly, without any straps on, that allows us to put a point of view from Indigenous point of view. And so most commentators, I think, will tell you that we've done pretty good, that because of the background that we've all come from, we've all had leadership positions in the past in New Zealand, and all shapes and sizes, through from protest movement through to the development of our own Indigenous models of education. So when we first arrived, generally the media thought that we were going to be this bunch of crazy lunatics who were going to bring in radical ideas. Well, we think we have brought all of that, but it's hopefully with a sense of with a common sense to it, and in the best interest of the whole country. So our base has been to defend Māori rights, but also to advance Māori aspirations in the best interest of the country, and we've attempted to follow that line ever since we arrived.
How effective were the Maori seats in representing Maori interests under first past the post, do you think?
Well, there was only 4 seats, so they were always going to be in the minority. That's the first point. Secondly, that they were at the behest of their masters. Whichever was the party that was in power was basically had to follow that lead. And while there was some moves made, in the end, it's quite clear that that it wasn't. There's never been enough. Why? Because there's been a protest movement in New Zealand, and that Māori people have, over a long period of time, used all sorts of ways of representing a view, or expressing their dreams and aspirations for the future, or basically just straight protesting about what has been done to our people. So we've been through a big, huge spectrum of political manoeuvring, if you like, ranging from passive resistance movements through to the use of the gun, and wars, through to petitions to England, through to marches through the country, through to participation in major political parties in order to try and find a place for us. And we hope that the arrival of the Māori Party, albeit only 4 seats in the Parliament of 121, provides a starting point for a bigger picture, which is about what was envisaged under what was called the Treaty of Waitangi, which was about the development of nationhood in New Zealand.
Do you think that that the Maori Party will be more effective than all those other methods you mentioned, from peaceful protest to petitioning England, all those?
No, I think that we're just a part of a big, huge band of ways that Māori people are expressing an opinion, and we're just a little speck in our history. There will be other. There's a legitimate part for active protest. There's a legitimate part for petitions. There's a little bit. There's all sorts of ways and means that people can express their view. We are just but one part of the picture, and that is in terms of protecting, as I say, protecting and defending the rights of Māori in this Parliament, but also providing some positive opportunities or positive ideas to the development of future policy in Parliament of this land.
Back when the Royal Commission first made its recommendations, not only did it suggest moving to MMP, but it also suggested abolishing the Maori seats as especially protected seats. What was your opinion on that when you heard that?
Well, at that point in time I wasn't too much a part of the political scene as such, but I think that you could take it that Māoridom across the board would not be in favour of that particular line. Why? Because the Māori seats are the only vehicle at this point in time that we have for providing a view about the dreams and aspirations that we have for our future, for our children. More to the point that there are a large number of outstanding issues through settlements of treaty grievances that's still to be solved, and so the removal of the seats will be, I would suggest to you, would be a very, very serious breach of I suppose the notion of nationhood for New Zealand, and that I suppose is one of the positive elements about MMP. It's allowed for a greater diversity of people to participate in the democratic process by giving people greater choice, but also allowing for Parliament to better reflect our country.
Well, you did mention that under first past the post, that there were Maori seats, but that they were often beholden to the 2 major parties which were dominated by Europeans. And this is a false choice, and it's not a serious consideration now. But under a hypothetical, do you think it would have served between 2 equally undesirable choices? Would it have better served the interests of the Maori to have a guaranteed Maori seats under first past the post, or to have a Maori party in Parliament under MMP without electorate Maori seats?
That's a very good question. It is the 2 bad scenarios which I probably hate to probably consider. I mean, the thing that probably needs to be put in context is that while we had seats in the Parliament, I can't remember how many were in here before, but I think it was something like 80 something. There was only 4 seats, and there's a history to that. The 4 seats came up in, well, if you go back in history, just very quickly, at the time of the signing of the Treaty of Waitangi, Maori people outnumbered settlers by numbers that range from about 90,000 to 200,000 Maori on this land and 2,000 settlers. The Treaty of Waitangi set out the arrangements for this land. So from a Maori perspective, it's highly unlikely that 200,000 Maori would give their power, their mana, their authority to 2,000 settlers. I think most people would accept that. Yep. But after a period of time, there was a call from England to set up a system of Parliament, and so the rules were arranged. There was a couple of things that were set up. Number one is you had to be male, you had to be over 21 years of age, and you had to have individual land holdings. Well, yes, there were Maori males, yes, they were over 21, but they operated under a collective land system. Therefore, most Maori were disenfranchised. Over a period of time, there was selling off of land, it became individual title, the balance of numbers evened out, and all of a sudden we have a Parliament and then the development of Parliament was set up. Maori weren't participating in the process too much, and then the balance of numbers came about, and Māori were to move into a position of authority. What happened then was an act, I think it was called the New Zealand Constitution Act, Māori Representation Act, New Zealand Māori Representation Act, which gave us 4 seats, which was a deliberate campaign from my point of view to limit the number of Māori seats in this country, because in fact by numbers we were entitled to far more, but by giving only 4, it basically locked everything down, and that was in place right through until about 1985 from memory. Now that's not long ago in our history, and for the development of MMP has opened the door up on that, such that Māori have a choice. You can either be on the Māori roll or the general roll, and Māori at age 18 are able to decide which way they go. Right here and right now in the MMP, if every Māori person that was registered on the census was to register on the Māori roll, there would be 13 seats possibility. Right now there are 7, which tells you about half of Māoridom is on the Māori roll, half on the general roll. So there is potential there to actually make a huge influence in terms of this Parliament, but the rules as they are don't reflect that. So I didn't really answer your question, I know, but it was a sort of the word. Under both systems, it just wouldn't have been possible. First past the post only delivered 4 seats, and they were elected by that major party, so therefore they were limited by what they could do in that party. Similarly, MMP, if there are Māori in here, under the rules and regulations of the major parties, it is not likely they'll be able to step outside the zone to represent Māori interests if they were told to, which happened a couple of years ago in terms of the seabed and foreshore legislation. I don't know if you'll be aware of that, but they were put on the spot with respect to that, and unfortunately followed their party line, except for one, and her name was Taria Naturia, and she became the leader of the Māori Party, and the Māori Party has grown on the back of that, which I suppose reflects the fact that Māoridom may well have seen the light with respect to MMP, and now are far more aware about the implications of Māori being in major political parties.
Do you think that do you think the people who vote in the party vote in the MMP elections, are they voting more for the people in the party or for the ideas and policies of the party?
Oh, sorry. I'll shut that down. Sorry. Māori people, are they voting for?
Well, not just Māori people, but Māori people and generally in the general population.
Yeah. Are they voting for
Are they
policies?
voting policies or the people and personalities?
And the party vote. I can't speak for mainstream New Zealand in that sense, but Māori are very much swayed by a historical alliance with the Labour Party, but the Māori Party has certainly changed that, and they see the political climate. So right now you know that 2 major parties are National and Labour, and that while both parties have a history with Māoridom, it very much depends on the profile, the presentation of those parties to the nation. So probably be of no surprise that Don Brash trotted out under the National Party, a racist agenda, and so Māoridom used their party vote to get Labour in, and that was very much the line that was run by the Labour Party, which said if you vote for the Māori Party, you're actually voting for National, which basically slammed everybody back to the Labour Party. Yeah.
Do you have a preferred coalition partner? I mean, does the party have a preferred coalition partner in the 2008 elections?
No, we don't. We haven't declared that, and we find them both probably as dishonourable as the other. But we are able to work with some members of those parties, and in the end we know the practical reality of whether you want to be a part of the game or not. We haven't declared where we're going to go, and as we did at the last election, our line is to go back to all of those people who put us in here to seek some guidance and see where we go from there.
What about your relationships with the other minor parties in Parliament, like the Greens, ACT, United Future, New Zealand First?
Well, I think we get on fairly well with all parties. While we might have our differences, I think that we've brought our own personalities and our own backgrounds to the agenda, and so I think we're able to get on well with everybody. We mightn't agree with them all, but sometimes we vote with them, sometimes we vote against them. It's just the political landscape, and so if somebody was to ask us, are you left or on the right of the political spectrum, our response to that is to say no, we're on the Māori part of the political spectrum, and people can hazard a guess at what that might mean.
Do you want to say about Arrow?
I'm on that.
Hi.
Mohawk.
Yeah.
I walk with the head in the white.
Yeah. Just asking them. I'm just telling them I'm in an interview, and I won't be very long. Yeah. I'm just keeping on it as well.
Okay, just.
Okay, I'll quickly. What are specifically some of the issues facing the Maori community in New Zealand?
Well, pretty much everything that affects the general statistics. If you do the research, you'll find that Māoridom disproportionately represented at every negative indices in the country, whether that be health, unemployment, the justice system, involvement with the justice system, education system. Māoridom is at the bottom end of most of those statistics. So, and to wrap it up very quickly, that we are in the hands of a government to improve our lot, because we are at the bottom end of that scale, disproportionately, that is.
Do you think MMP has made politicians more accountable?
Has MMP made? I think it has. I think it has. I think it's opened the door up because, in terms of how Māori see the whole issue of it, generally there's been my own personal view is that Māoridom have given up on the political process because of a failure to actually make any inroads on getting a better deal. And while governments come and go and do some good things here and there, it is about, for us, the notion of what we call tino rangatiratanga, the ability for our tribes, our people to run their own affairs in a way that they think is appropriate, and that the resources should flow. MMP at least provides an opportunity for two things. Number one is that you represent yourself back to the electorate every 3 years, which is good. They get to vote for you or against you, or I suppose possibly influenced by your party. And secondly, they get to influence the political landscape by way of the party vote. The experience thus far is that New Zealand has developed a good model, which is, having been overseas and seen the German background, the Dutch, and the model in Norway. I think that we've probably got a good mixture of all of those, which is allowing a bigger spread and a better reflection of New Zealand society. In fact, it prompts the major parties to ensure that they have balance by way of gender and ethnicity. And those two things are important in terms of presenting a cross-section of view of New Zealand society in Parliament. So in that regard, I think it has far and away beneficial for the country.
Is there anything that you feel that I didn't ask you about that is absolutely crucial to understand?
Maybe the 5% threshold.
Yeah. How do you feel about the 5% threshold?
Well, in the sense of the Māori seats right now, it doesn't actually matter for us, because our party is a small party. We've always been consistently about 2-3%, and that's with support not just from Māoridom but also mainstream New Zealanders. So the evidence suggests and research tells us that we will never ever get to 5%, in which case we have to rely on nailing down those electorate seats. So it's a mechanism which is doing all right because it allows the Greens to get in and it allows for the others to get in, and I suppose it's a fair enough threshold right now. MMP in New Zealand is still very, very young, and we need to probably adapt it at some point. Just as much as some parties want to get rid of the Māori seats, we probably need to adapt slightly or move things here and there. But at the moment, it serves us well in terms of getting a good reflection of Parliament. But in terms of the Māori seats, the 7 seats, our job is not to worry too much about that party vote, because we know that we won't get it for some time. So our role is solely to win the electorate seats, and if we do that, then firstly we have a safe position in the Parliament that we will always be at. We will already be, even if we won all of the seats, all of 7 seats, we will already be at the threshold anyway at 5%. So therefore, there's nothing to be gained for us by being at the 5% threshold, other than to take, I suppose, party votes away from everybody else.
Anything else, Al?
I think.
As I said, is there anything that we need to bring
I
up?
don't think so. Yeah.
Anything that you'd like to say to America or Americans? Maybe talk about our political system?
No, I don't know enough about it, I'm afraid.
Mm.
And it sounds pretty confusing, so I'll probably best to leave it at that.
But do you think it'd be okay if we took a few shots of things around your office?
No, that's fine, go for it.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for
No problem.